Have you ever stopped to think that there are subtle forces that influence every step we take, even when we do not realize it? At various moments in life, we have the feeling that our emotions and thoughts generate impacts much greater than we can measure, as if there were some kind of invisible thread that connects our mind to the unfolding of events. This perception, which sometimes sounds like simple intuition, has been supported by scientific discoveries and profound reflections on the power of thought and attention. However, how can we transform these glimpses into something effective, capable of consciously shaping our destiny? How can we translate such perceptions into changing our reality in a positive and lasting way? For many people, the idea that observing something can change what is observed seems like science fiction or mysticism. However, experiments in quantum physics, such as the famous double-slit test, show that subatomic particles can behave like waves or particles depending on the presence of an observer. But is this phenomenon limited to laboratories? When we bring this concept into daily life, it becomes intriguing to think that our perception plays a fundamental role in how events unfold. If simply observing electrons already causes an impact, why would it be any different when we pay attention to our goals, relationships, and challenges? Could it be that the way we see situations also influences their outcome? To better understand, imagine that each of us carries a kind of mental flashlight. Wherever we direct the beam, we illuminate more details, while other areas remain in the shadows. If we direct this light to problems, they seem to grow. If we direct it to solutions, new ideas and paths emerge. Doesn't it make you wonder how many opportunities have gone unnoticed simply because they were not illuminated? This concept goes beyond shallow positive thinking. It's important to recognize that the observer, that is, you, has the power to choose where to focus attention. This choice, in turn, reinforces certain neural pathways, which become stronger every time we repeat patterns of thought and feeling. It may seem complex, but the essence is simple. What we focus on tends to expand. An interesting parallel is how we can become blind to certain stimuli. Who has never failed to notice a crucial detail in the environment just because they were distracted or worried? The famous observer effect shows that we are constantly influencing reality, even in ways that escape our full understanding. It's almost as if our beliefs are filters that select which facts will receive our attention. Perhaps the central question is, how can we apply this idea to improve our lives? If observing is, in a way, creating, then how we choose to observe challenges can either open or close doors. When we fixate on mistakes, we remain stuck in them. When we focus on learning from failures, we forge a path of growth. Have you ever thought about how many times your state of mind determined your success or failure in something important? It's worth remembering that this process is neither automatic nor always easy. Amid the pressures of daily life, it's common to fall into autopilot and react without awareness. But the good news is that we can recondition the brain to see situations through a more constructive lens. Isn't it encouraging to realize that your attention can be trained, just like we train a muscle at the gym? In practical terms, starting with simple changes in routine, such as noticing something positive in the midst of a problem or being grateful for some detail before going to sleep, already helps redirect how we see reality. And what if you adopted the habit of listing, at the end of each day, the moments when your presence of mind made a difference? It would be a first step toward consolidating this more conscious focus. Even if it seems somewhat abstract, the principle that the observer interferes with matter need not be viewed as magic. Think of it as a reminder that the way we judge, interpret, or react to events has real consequences, both in our emotions and in the environment. Sometimes, it is in a change of attitude that life begins to respond differently. However, there is an important caution. Observing consciously does not mean denying problems or pretending they don't exist. It means, rather, embracing reality as it is and asking, what can I learn or create from here? Have you noticed how this simple shift in the question changes everything? Many psychological studies reinforce that our mental state, and not just circumstances, determines a large part of our well-being. If we are constantly alert to risks, we live in tension. If we are alert to opportunities, we experience more hope. Without ignoring what needs to be corrected, choosing where to rest the beam of our attention can be a turning point for a more balanced life. In this process, it's common to feel a sense of responsibility. If we really take part in how things unfold, then we can become more active agents in building the future. Some people find this scary, Others find it liberating. Which group would you rather be in? When we talk about creative observation, it's not about having absolute control over events. No one escapes life's unforeseen circumstances. It's about influencing how we interpret these unforeseen circumstances and the actions we take next. Have you ever stopped to think how many times something apparently bad ended up becoming a catalyst for great transformation? The essence of this chapter can be summed up in a few words. Who observes, transforms. If subatomic particles react to observation, and if our state of attention defines what we notice and how we react, maybe reality isn't as rigid as we imagine. Are you willing to observe your life with a new perspective and allow new possibilities to flourish? In the end, the role of observer need not be seen as a burden, but rather as an opportunity to rediscover the world and yourself. If at every moment we decide the focus of our attention, perhaps we hold in our hands a powerful tool to shape the path we travel. How about embracing this more conscious and curious stance, bringing more light to everything you touch? Neuroplasticity may sound like a complex term, but its essence is simple and powerful. Our brain can remodel itself throughout life, forming new connections and neural routes as we learn, repeat habits, and absorb experiences. Have you ever imagined that your present behaviors and thoughts are literally sculpting the way your mind will function in the future? Many believe that, after childhood, the brain becomes static, making it difficult to change ingrained patterns. However, current research shows the opposite. Even in adulthood, we can create entirely new neural pathways. This means it's never too late to reshape a negative habit or adopt a more positive worldview. Isn't it encouraging to know we aren't condemned to repeat the same mistakes forever? A practical example of this ability lies in how we learn skills. Think about a beginner musician. At first, each note feels like a challenge, but as days go by, the melody flows almost effortlessly. Why not apply the same principle to building a healthier mindset? If we can train our fingers to dance on the guitar, we can also train our mind to respond calmly and confidently in situations that used to be stressful. The key to activating neuroplasticity in a positive way is conscious repetition. Every time you choose a different response to a problem, you reinforce the neural pathway corresponding to that new choice. Over time, it stops feeling forced and becomes your automatic reaction. Have you ever thought about how many transformations might arise if you apply this logic in various areas of your life? In this process, self-knowledge acts like a radar, helping to identify patterns that no longer serve you. Maybe you catch yourself replaying self-sabotaging thoughts, such as, "I'm not good enough," or "this will never work out." Recognizing these thoughts is the first step to replacing them with more constructive statements. "I can try another way," or "I will figure out a solution." Imagine how much potential is blocked by beliefs we created and can unlearn. Meditation practice is one of the most cited methods for stimulating this brain restructuring. By focusing on the breath, for example, we train the mind to step away from the whirlwind of worries and remain in the present moment. It seems simple, but it's extremely effective for reducing stress and anxiety, two factors that often prevent us from adopting new behaviors. Have you ever stopped to notice how much time we spend on autopilot? Another essential factor for neuroplasticity is emotional balance. When we're under intense emotional pressure, the brain tends to use the pathways it already knows, usually the most reactive or defensive ones. Creating spaces for self-care, such as reading, physical exercise, and enjoyable activities, helps to reduce tension and make room for new synapses. Doesn't it sound liberating to be able to choose calmer responses instead of always acting on impulse? And we can't forget the importance of intrinsic motivation. No matter how much people around us encourage us, it's the genuine desire for change that ignites the internal spark. If you find meaning in the goal you set, it becomes much easier to persevere even when results don't show up immediately. How many times have you dropped something because you saw no purpose in it? A practical step to make this mental reprogramming concrete is to set small short-term goals. Instead of trying to change everything all at once, choose one habit to focus on for a week, whether it's waking up 15 minutes earlier or avoiding complaining before lunch. Each small victory sends the brain the message that it's possible to change, positively reinforcing the new circuits you're building. Can you imagine how, in the long term, these small achievements might add up? On this path, relapses or moments of doubt are common. After all, the brain loves saving energy, and whenever it can, it reverts to the familiar pattern. Cultivating an attitude of understanding toward yourself makes all the difference. Instead of blaming yourself for slip-ups, see them as a natural part of learning. Would you be that hard on a friend who's trying to learn something new and stumbles a few times? The more we understand about neuroplasticity, the more we realize that we are, to a large extent, responsible for our own evolution. If today you feel your life is stagnant or certain behaviors seem impossible to change, remember that your brain is open to new possibilities. Just start giving it the right stimuli. And what if you started now to plant seeds of self-confidence to harvest the fruits of future achievements? This power to rewrite the mind isn't limited to the personal realm. It extends to relationships, careers, and how we face collective challenges. When we exercise empathy or understanding, for example, we're also training mental muscles that can deepen our connections. Isn't it fascinating to think that changing yourself can trigger changes around you? Discoveries about neuroplasticity go hand in hand with other fields like epigenetics and positive psychology. All of them converge on the idea that, although genetic and environmental factors influence us, we have much more room to maneuver than previously thought. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson. It's possible to take the reins of your own life instead of being carried along by inherited patterns or old conditioning. On the other hand, we shouldn't confuse this concept with the idea that everything is perfect and easy to change. The journey requires effort, patience, and persistence. But the comforting news is that every step counts. Every repetition engraves the new pattern in your mind a bit more. Have you ever thought how gratifying it will be to look back and see how far you've come from those initial insecurities? In short, neuroplasticity invites each of us on an extraordinary adventure, to be a co-author of our own destiny. If you feel stuck or believe you weren't born with special gifts, maybe it's time to question these beliefs. Your brain is ready to transform, and with every choice, you carve out new paths. The question remains, which incredible routes will you decide to create for yourself? When people talk about intention, many imagine something vague or mystical. However, if you consider that every intention is a set of directed thoughts and emotions, it's easy to notice its real effect on our lives. After all, our thoughts influence what we say, our emotions affect our tone of voice, and ultimately, all of this guides our actions. Isn't it curious to realize that what begins inside us overflows into every attitude? Experiments in fields such as psychology and neuroscience indicate that what we desire with conviction affects our mental state and, consequently, our perception of the environment. This means that when we intend something genuinely, our brain tends to filter and highlight information that facilitates the realization of that objective. Have you noticed how, upon deciding to buy a specific car model, suddenly you start seeing it everywhere? It's not just science that points to the power of intention. Various spiritual traditions have taught for centuries that the force of an authentic desire can affect the surrounding reality. The idea that where we place our attention, we place our energy, appears from Eastern scriptures to Western philosophies. Could it be mere coincidence that, regardless of culture, so many people talk about this same inner force? However, there is a big gap between a superficial intention and a deep intention, grounded in emotion and meaning. Wanting something merely out of impulse or whim usually does not generate a transformative drive. But when we involve genuine feelings and a clear vision of what is desired, we create a state of alignment between mind and heart. Isn't it inspiring to think that by feeling your desire deeply, you create a kind of internal compass that guides you? In practical terms, intention can be compared to a seed. If you plant it in fertile ground, that is, a state of trust, motivation, and action, it has a high chance of flourishing. If, on the other hand, you leave it in soil filled with doubt and disbelief, little will sprout from there. Doesn't that make you think about how many dreams have been abandoned before even receiving enough care to blossom? There are also those who associate the power of intention with a quantum dimension, claiming that our consciousness emits vibrations that affect external reality. Regardless of whether we believe in these broader explanations or not, it's clear that the way we think and feel influences our body, our mood, and the choices we make. And if choices shape destiny, why not assume that intention does indeed play a crucial role? Perhaps the biggest mistake is expecting that simple visualization or desire will attract results without any practical action. Genuine intention requires commitment. If you aspire to a meaningful job, for instance, it's not enough just to intend it. You need to send out resumes, refine your skills, cultivate a network of contacts. But when that action is guided by sincere desire, the journey tends to flow with more clarity and enthusiasm. Can you imagine how this inner ingredient transforms the process? In many cases, faith in one's own ability determines whether you will persist or give up at the first difficulties. People who deeply believe in themselves tend to overcome obstacles with resilience, while those who lack that conviction become discouraged more easily. Could it be that, upon reviewing your intentions, you might discover that all you needed was to strengthen this self-confidence to move forward? Some spiritual currents argue that intention, combined with emotion, generates an energetic signature strong enough to influence situations that are not even within our direct reach. Even though this concept is not easily proven, many personal accounts show how people who maintained a positive and firm mental posture achieved extraordinary results. Isn't it at least worth considering the possibility that there is something powerful in simply believing deeply? From a psychological standpoint, we can say that intention works like a filter that tells the brain, "This is important, pay attention." Thus, we tend to recognize opportunities, connections, and solutions that bring us closer to our goal. Have you ever thought about how many times a good opportunity went unnoticed because your intention was scattered or not aligned with your true desires? On the other hand, intention can also be distorted if it is guided by purely selfish motivations or negative emotions. In that case, even if there is focus, the emotional impact generated can be destructive or unbalanced. Therefore, it's worth asking, what kind of energy am I emitting when I intend something? Am I nurturing a positive vision not only for myself but also for those around me? By reflecting on what truly matters to you, intentions become clearer and more powerful. When there is purpose, it becomes easier to resist the temptation to give up at the first obstacle. If your intention is, for example, to help others through your work, it's likely that your commitment will be greater than if the goal were just a momentary financial gain. Have you noticed how higher motivations tend to generate more solid determination? Ultimately, intention is a catalyst that transforms scattered dreams into tangible goals. By deciding what you want and why you want it, you give your brain a compass, something around which to align thoughts and actions. When the path becomes foggy, remembering that why works like a lighthouse. Could this simple exercise of internal alignment significantly increase your chances of success? The more we understand the power of intention, the more we realize that we are co-authors of our own story. Of course, many external factors also influence our lives, but the way we tune our focus and direct our energy makes a difference. If reality can be seen as a sea of possibilities, intention is the helm that points the direction to follow. Are you willing to take hold of this helm with determination? In short, connecting science and mysticism around the theme of intention doesn't have to be an act of blind faith. Rather, it's an invitation to observe how mind and reality relate far more intimately than we suppose. Whether you are a quantum physics enthusiast or someone who prefers a more pragmatic approach, recognizing the power of intention can completely change the way you face challenges. So, what is your next great intention? When we discover that our perceptions, intentions, and mental patterns can shape reality, it's natural to ask ourselves, how can we put these ideas into practice in a simple and efficient way? The good news is that there are several tools that can be adopted by anyone, regardless of age or routine. Have you ever imagined how many growth opportunities might be hidden in small daily adjustments? One of the most popular techniques is creative visualization. In this method, you set aside a moment each day to imagine yourself experiencing what you wish to achieve. It could be a professional goal, a harmonious relationship, or even overcoming a personal challenge. The idea is to involve all your senses, making the scene as vivid as possible. Feeling the emotions, sensing aromas, noticing details. Isn't it amazing to bring the desired future into your present mind? Another practice that has been gaining ground is positive affirmations. These consist of short, constructive phrases, repeated consciously to reprogram limiting beliefs. A simple example is, "I deserve to prosper and find opportunities that match my talents." By repeating these words, you signal to your brain that this is the kind of information it needs to focus on. What if you replaced each internal criticism with an affirmation that reinforces your worth? It's also worth mentioning the power of a gratitude journal. In it, you record every day, or at least a few times a week, the reasons you feel grateful. It could be something big, like a win at work, or something seemingly small, such as the taste of coffee or a caring look from someone. This exercise helps train the brain to see abundance where previously there was only scarcity. Have you ever taken the time to count how many blessings there are in your life that go unnoticed? In the realm of calming the mind, few practices are as effective as meditation. It can be something simple, like dedicating 5 minutes in the morning to focus on your breath, observing how the air enters and leaves your lungs. Science has proven that this type of exercise reduces stress and sharpens the ability to concentrate, while also creating space for creative insights. Have you ever thought about how a few minutes of silence could revolutionize your day? Complementing this idea, conscious breathing exercises, such as the 4-7-8 technique, inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8, offer a kind of reset to our nervous system. They induce the body into a state of calm, allowing the mind to be more receptive to the changes you want to implement. Isn't it encouraging to know that, amidst chaos, you can create an oasis of serenity simply by controlling your own breathing? To enhance these methods, it's crucial to pay attention to the environment in which you live. Small adjustments, such as keeping inspirational books in sight, choosing music that elevates your mood, and even placing motivational reminders on the wall, help nurture positive mental states. After all, if the observer influences matter, your environment also influences the observer. Have you noticed how the colors, sounds, and objects around you can affect your mood? Another often underestimated point is media consumption. Spending hours of the day exposed to negative news, violent entertainment, or toxic conversations can sabotage your progress. It's not about ignoring reality, but rather finding balance. How about replacing part of that content with inspiring documentaries, personal development podcasts, or uplifting reading? Perhaps the change you seek in life begins by adjusting what enters your mind. There is also room for more creative methods, such as making a vision board. On it, you gather images, words, and symbols that represent your goals and dreams. Placing this board somewhere easily visible, like your bedroom or home office, means that every day you're reminded of what you want to achieve. It may seem simple, but that constant reminder subtly guides your choices. Wouldn't it be great to have a treasure map in sight every morning? Morning routines are another established practice. That first hour after waking sets much of the tone for your day. You can use that fresh mental state to meditate, visualize, write, or even do a light physical activity. Those who start the day with a dose of positivity and clarity tend to remain more resilient when facing setbacks. Makes sense, doesn't it? When it comes to changing habits, a powerful concept is habit stacking. Just pair a new habit with one you've already established. For example, if you always have coffee in the morning, use those minutes to read an inspirational quote or practice affirmations. By linking something you already do automatically with something new, it becomes easier to create a consistent routine. Can you imagine how many new skills could emerge simply by hitching a ride on habits you already have? For those who want to track their own progress, it's helpful to keep a record of your development. It can be a notebook, an app, or even a simple spreadsheet where you note what you did, how you felt, and what results you obtained. This makes it easier to see how far you've come over the weeks, and to celebrate achievements that would otherwise go unnoticed. Have you thought about how motivating it would be to see how much you've advanced by rereading your notes? On this path of transformation, having someone to share your discoveries with can be a game changer. It could be a friend, a study group, an online forum, or even a specialized professional. Talking about what works and what doesn't creates a support network that reinforces the feeling that you're not alone. Who knows, by stating your goals and results, you might discover valuable tips that someone else has already successfully tested. Finally, it's worth remembering that no tool works miracles on its own. The secret lies in combining intention, regular practice, and coherent action. There's no point meditating on prosperity if, when making financial decisions, you always act out of fear or without planning. True power lies in aligning inner work with outer work, creating harmony between what you think, feel, and do. By exploring these tools with lightness and curiosity, you begin to realize that the transformation process can be more exciting than intimidating. Every exercise you adopt, every habit you cultivate, and every insight you gain serves as a step toward a more intentional life, rich in meaning. The only question that remains is, which of these tools will you try first? The time has come to translate all the previous reflections into actions that truly transform your life. After all, understanding the role of the observer, neuroplasticity, the power of intention, and the tools for change is only half the journey. The other half involves incorporating these concepts into your daily routine. Have you thought about how everything we've discussed can become a kind of guide to move you toward your greatest dreams? It's common for the first attempts to encounter internal resistance. Our brain and our emotions still want to revert to old patterns. After all, they're familiar and comfortable. But this is precisely where knowledge becomes strength. By realizing you're resisting, you can realign your thoughts and remember the full potential for transformation you possess. Isn't it exciting to know that you hold the reins, even when things seem uncertain? A valuable tip is to start with achievable goals, almost like small tests of how your new mindset works. It might be something simple, like improving your morning routine or changing the way you communicate with someone close to you. Each victory, no matter how small, consolidates your confidence in your own power to change, reinforcing the new neural pathways you're building. After all, how many major achievements have their roots in small daily decisions? As you move forward, don't be surprised if life brings challenges that test everything you've learned. See this as a sign that you're growing. Old problems may resurface, but now you have mental and emotional tools you didn't have before. It's at this moment that the conscious choice to respond with calm, creativity, and perseverance makes all the difference. Have you noticed how obstacles can become stepping stones when we shift our perspective? Another crucial step is to maintain coherence between what you want and what you do. If your goal is to live in peace with yourself, but you fuel arguments and continuously expose yourself to stressful situations unnecessarily, there will be an internal conflict. On the other hand, when your intention, your attention, and your actions are aligned in the same direction, a sense of flow takes over. How many times have you felt that rare lightness of doing exactly what you were meant to be doing? One factor that often goes unnoticed is the importance of celebrating progress. Each milestone reached, be it a new habit acquired, a more harmonious relationship, or a professional result, deserves to be acknowledged. This celebration doesn't have to be huge. It can be a small treat for yourself or a simple moment of reflection on how far you've come. Don't you think that recognizing your own achievements fuels you to keep going? As you live this new reality, other people will also notice the transformations. Interestingly, personal change can spark a domino effect in the environment, inspiring friends, colleagues, and family members to rethink their own routines and beliefs. Have you thought about how being a living example of growth and maturity can impact those around you? It's important, however, not to fall into the perfection trap. There will be days when it's hard to maintain focus or manage certain emotions. At these times, remember that every stumble is part of the process, and the most important thing is to get back on track as soon as possible. Why punish yourself when you can learn and move on with a renewed perspective? Over time, the concepts of the observer, neuroplasticity, and conscious intention become so integrated into your routine that they feel almost natural. You start choosing more carefully where to invest your mental energy, reshaping negative feelings into drivers for overcoming challenges, and seeing opportunities where previously there was only frustration. Isn't it inspiring to envision that being happy is no longer a distant goal but becomes an everyday practice? At this stage, many people find a clearer life purpose. The desire to grow and improve can expand into something bigger, like contributing to the community, helping those in need, or sharing knowledge. Living your new reality isn't limited to individual achievements. It can also awaken a desire to leave a positive legacy. Have you reflected on what difference you'd like to make in the world now that you recognize your own potential? A sign that transformation is occurring is when you face a problem and catch yourself thinking, what does this situation have to teach me? Instead of reacting with impatience or denial, a healthy curiosity emerges, one that knows every experience brings a lesson. What if each challenge were, in fact, an essential step toward something greater and better? Along this path, tools for conscious transformation don't cease to be useful. On the contrary, they become permanent practices that you adapt and reinvent according to each life moment. What began as a deliberate effort, visualizations, affirmations, meditation, becomes a way of being more attentive and confident. Have you ever found yourself spontaneously applying a technique that once required your full concentration? Experiencing your new reality isn't a final destination, but a constantly evolving process. Your dreams may change, your priorities may shift, and with each adjustment, you gain a bit more wisdom. And what if, instead of thinking about arriving there, you started to value each stage of the journey, making the most of what each phase has to offer. Looking back, you'll realize it all began with a willingness to see things differently, to observe life from a more conscious perspective, acknowledge the power of intention, and adopt small actions aligned with your values. Gradually, these changes accumulate and create a positive spiral that elevates not only your well-being but also how you interact with the world. Doesn't it bring a certain pride to think it all started within you? No matter your starting point or the scale of your goals, it's vital to remember, you truly have the capacity to shape a new path for yourself. The only thing standing between you and your objectives is how you use your mind and your will. So, why not fully embrace the role of co-creator of your own story and move forward with enthusiasm? The entire journey we've followed here shows that there's much more at play than what we see on the surface. Understanding and applying concepts such as the power of the observer, the brain's plasticity, the force of intention, and the tools for transformation free us to build, step by step, a more authentic and fulfilling existence. And the most beautiful part is noticing that by changing from within, we also positively impact those around us, extending the reach of this evolution beyond ourselves. If you're interested in exploring more about spirituality, I've specially selected some videos packed with profound insights and fascinating discoveries that you'll love. Just click on one of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual learning. Your commitment to knowledge is the first step to transforming your reality.